Welcome to the Deep Six podcast, where we make a generational impact on you and yours. What we do here is explore a 6-point model into your health, your life, and your journey while you're here. So let's dive deep and help you thrive, not just survive. Hello, welcome to the Deep Six podcast. I'm Dr. Lewerenz, and always excited and passionate about bringing you wonderful, wonderful information, cutting edge stuff. And I have a wonderful guest that is really not a guest to me because I work with her intimately at the office at Longevity Health Institute in southeastern Michigan here. But welcome my IV infusion nurse, my head nurse, Naomi Martoia.
Thanks. It's fun to be able to talk about what we do every day, what we love in our job, and the experiences that we share and get to encourage ourselves and encourage others about the stories and the successes that we've had.
Is it weird for me to welcome you though?
It is.
Is it? Do I welcome you every day?
Not necessarily, but you always have a smile, and you're great at greeting your patients and in general, making everybody feel comfortable and glad that they're there as opposed to a traditional experience in a medical office.
Good answer. Thank you. And I will pay you for that. Thank you. Yeah, we are paid. So, but no, Naomi is, actually, and I didn't even say this. This is so critical. So now you're our head infusion nurse, IV nurse, and one of our head nurses, and you are my integrator, which we'll talk about what that means.
Right.
But so you're like my right hand a bit. You're also, as my wife would say, thank God, but you're my filter.
Exactly.
So I have to have a filter.
You have great ideas, and I need to help make them happen.
To filter that
or
vision
say,
down.
Maybe let's wait on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I think, and I'm sure like our patients will thank you. But well, Naomi, thank you for joining us. Really, and this will be fun because I'm going to even learn more about you and stuff that, like, of course I know, but like we don't really do this, because we're always talking either about the patient or about the biz.
Right.
And how to run the business and make sure that's running good in that. So, but let me share a few things about you. Don't blush. I'm proud to have you with us, by the way, in our practice. It's so awesome, but because I didn't even know this. So 34 years as a nurse, as an RN, and most of your career, most of your focus and skills have been in natural medicine, nutrition, infusion therapy. You've spent the last 17 years as an infusion director somewhere.
Right.
Okay. Now you're in a better place.
Exactly.
Because you're with us.
I've been here at Longevity Health for 4 years.
Yeah. So, but you've done 17 years of an infusion nurse in that, and you've worked a lot in educational programs and in practices in that, in a, functional medicine type of way. Obviously, currently you're with us at Longevity Health Institute. You're never leaving. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to retire or anything like that, unless I do.
That's right.
You do offer many other things besides, the truth is this, you're really critical with patient care because you're with my patients all the time, reviewing, discussing, details, explaining stuff like that. So you're beyond a nurse, but not that that's an insult at all, but I'm just saying you do so much for us. You're doing aesthetics in the office with PRP and some of our skin therapies and hair therapies for hair growth and that as people struggle with that. And then on a personal end, you have a couple children, you're married to a cool dude.
I have a wonderful husband who is encouraging me always to take bold steps in my career and do the things that I love.
And probably drink bourbon.
That's right. That too.
Yeah,
he loves it and collects it. I watch it because it's not my favorite thing.
I get you. I know. We're not allowed. My wife said we're not allowed to hang out because of his bourbon.
Because of the bourbon issue.
Well, me and him in bourbon will just be trouble. And here I do a podcast in a speakeasy. This is,
right.
But also you do love summer things. You love the outdoors. You love gardening. I know you and my wife kind of always, have that to talk about in that. And you love repurposing vintage and salvaged
items and making old things repurposed and using them in new ways. Yeah. They have a story. They're more interesting than new stuff. Yeah. And they always make people wonder where you got it, and they're something to talk about.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, it's funny because I and my wife, but I like antiquing I kind of like what you just said. Like if I find something and I'm in some city or some town, even outside of Detroit and that's like old and vintagey, I love the story behind it.
Absolutely. It's lived a long life, and I want to give it a new life, and incorporate it into mine.
And I haven't been to your house, but I know you do incorporate a lot of that, I've heard. So that's cool.
I do.
Cool stuff. So, I always start the podcast with a quote. Okay. And then we'll kind of get into some of the weeds about what we do, because there's so much to talk about. I mean, I could literally sit here and pick your brain, because you've had tons of experience on a different end, but I always like to start with a quote. So this is a philosopher, Rumi, that said, wear gratitude like a cloak and let it feed every corner of your life. You like that?
I love it.
Yeah.
Being grateful for the opportunities and the challenges, because each of those things gives us an opportunity to learn new things and to grow. And I don't think that we become something better unless we have gratitude for even the hard things.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Well said. But it is so true, because we all have hard things.
We do.
Always. I mean, even when things look great and outside looks wonderful, we've always had ups and downs and hard things. And that's the only way you grow. And I was literally just speaking this with my children the other night at dinner, is just that, my 19-year-old daughter, and, about how, like, that's why you're becoming a beautiful, thriving young woman, is the stuff that you struggled with. Now you reflect and look back a year or two ago. So, so that's so critical. But so cool. So let me ask you some things, like, how did you get here?
How did I even get interested in medicine? Well, I was one of those kids that had a really interesting mother who was a nurse, and she was an IV nurse for an entire hospital. And over time, she became a nurse at a very forward-thinking clinic in Indianapolis, Indiana, that did chelation therapy, did gut health.
And what year would this been?
This would have been in the early 1980s. So this was before functional medicine was actually a term.
Right. Yeah.
It was considered very unusual, not trusted at the time. There was a small group of people that was pursuing that kind of medicine. My mom ended up becoming the director of nursing, and my dad was the actual manager of the clinic. And this was a very forward-thinking doctor before his time. He brought in ozone therapy from Germany. He brought in IV vitamin C and chelation therapy, and we had 2 buildings that were full of patients getting infusions, doing GI testing and looking at gut health before a lot of testing was understood.
In the 80s.
In the 80s.
Wow.
We had an integrative dentist that was part of that. So I was watching that. I was one of those kids that went to work with their parents and doing the filing and doing the odd jobs and watching all of this and hearing the stories, because patients in our kind of medicine come back over and over because we're become supportive guides in a journey towards their health. And so it was a wonderful way to learn and watch and be inspired by something that I didn't completely understand. I was a guinea pig for supplements, injections, testing. So I learned all about those things directly from my mom. And so she was so cutting edge that before there was mobile IV therapy, she actually brought mobile IV therapy to our home and had patients come to our house at night. And primarily cancer patients were getting treated on our couch at night. And I was sitting and talking to them. These patients became lifelong friends because they felt like they owed a lot of their success in their recovery to my mother. And watching that was amazingly inspiring. Yeah.
I mean, wow. How cutting edge at the time, how, being someone, a pioneer.
She was.
And this doctor, where was it at?
It was Indianapolis, Indiana. Wow. The doctor is no longer alive, but his practice was there for probably 25 years.
It's amazing. Yes. And then you to experience that. And, my dad being a physician, I did the same thing, kind of like I would, come in, do charts, do cleanup, do whatever they needed me to do, I can remember the first time ever, I don't know what year, I got a B12 shot.
Right.
And mostly just because people were doing those, and I'm like, what is that?
Right.
I don't know if I even remember feeling anything, because by the way, when you're young, your B12 is pretty high.
That's true.
But it was just funny because I was open to that, but that experience is, it's those seeds that get planted. But
it was a seed, but I didn't listen.
Of course not.
I went into medicine and nursing and saw the medical paradigm as having everything I needed. So when I got into nursing, I kind of walked away from what we would call alternative medicine at the time, and I didn't embrace it at all. And I pursued every medicine I could for every little symptom I had. And before long, I found that my health broke going through a stressor, and that process brought me back to looking for a good guide.
Yeah.
Because I kept asking doctors, and I had so many doctors. One of my doctors looked at me and said, if you go to one more doctor, you're going to be on so many medications, you won't know what of your symptoms are from your drugs and what of them are from your actual things going on in your body.
Good for him.
Yes.
Because that's not sometimes even brought up.
It's not.
I mean, even if you're not in a practice like ours, like a functional medicine practice, a practice that, dives at the root cause.
Right.
And by the way, for our guests, or excuse me, our audience, the functional approach is looking at like the root issue, the physiology. Yeah, we can call it alternative, we can call it holistic.
Right.
But it's really looking at, and that's what the Deep Six is, this 6-point model of looking at root issues, root causes, and really exploring that to the functionality. Right. So before it's a disease, Right. But kudos to him, because for him to call out and say, not just treat you and street you,
Right.
for him to say, hey, you're not going to know the difference in your illness
Right.
or the drug or the potential side effect, So,
Right.
so wow. So go ahead though.
So I ended up going back to a primary care doctor, and my primary care doctor told me, what's going on in your body is your new normal. This disease, this dysfunction is now your new normal. Learn to live with it.
Jeez.
I walked out of there and was so discouraged. I was like, I need a different guide. Where will I go to get that type of a guide to help me to get out of this mess? And so I reached out to the nutritionist that worked at the office that my mother, because I was like, I need to start somewhere with somebody I trust. And at the time, I didn't know a lot of functional medicine. You couldn't look that up online. This was in 1999.
Yeah.
And I reached out to this nutritionist and had a phone consult with her, and she asked me a question. She said, Naomi, don't put anything into your body unless you know it's going to heal it. And what she meant was my nutrition. So she asked me what I had to eat that day, and I said, well, I had a canned chicken noodle soup. I was proud about that because I thought that's what you eat when you're sick.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Chicken noodle soup, not homemade, from a can.
Yeah.
So she
and how
quickly made me aware how poor that was a choice for nutrition.
And how old were you then, roughly?
I was about 35.
Okay. And you were a nurse then?
I was a nurse.
Right. And so you highly educated.
Right.
I just want to say this because I went through that too. I came from a family of an athlete, a doctor, a nurse, and a teacher, and where we thought, I thought canned stuff, these things, just like you, just like you're saying. And you were proud of that.
Right. It's not a cookie.
Right. I believe it or not, back in the day, this was in college, but I had Taco Bell bean burritos all the time. I thought that was like, well, I'm having a bean burrito.
Right.
Thought it was a good choice. I didn't have the knowledge, so that's,
Exactly.
So anyway, go ahead. That made me think of that.
So I hung up the phone with her and I said, my mission is to figure out what a healing food is. I have no idea what that was. And there wasn't a lot of resources out there. She did give me some places to start, but I ended up reading. I probably read 100 books on nutrition and started to apply what I was starting to learn to my life. That meant I was changing my lifestyle. I was now, as I'm looking at our 6 points, I was improving detoxification. I was improving my nutrition. I was decreasing my stress. I was learning ways to improve my sleep because my sleep was so poor after all the medications I had been on. I was working on all these things. And after a period of time, I decided, you know what? I am so much better doing these things. I can't go back as a nurse doing what I was doing and say that that is the way for anybody to recover, because I knew I had already embraced a traditional approach and it left me still broken and I needed more. And I knew people needed somebody to come alongside them as a good, helpful guide that they could trust to get them to a better place. And so I decided to go back to school and become a nutritionist. And in that process, I actually met a physician that worked in functional medicine and gave me an opportunity to work in that clinic. And then she put me through lots of training for infusion therapies. And my first patients were cancer patients. And that was the beginning of the training, the learning, and that transformation. And once I started doing a job that married my core belief systems about health and what I love to do every day as a job, it now transformed my career, and now I could never go back. Now this time in medicine is empowering, it's encouraging. I need it because I know that I have a vulnerable system that needs support throughout my entire life, that I can't be perfectly healthy unless I do these additional things to help my body to stay well. And there's not one magic bullet, that I have to look at all of these things that are in play to keep me healthy.
Yeah, no, and you lived it. I mean, you lived it on both ends,
right?
You know, and that's like, I mean, it's so powerful.
Right.
Sadly, a lot of patients have to go through that. I had to go through it in a different way. I shared it on one of the other podcast episodes, where the same kind of thing, where it like hit me. I was practicing medicine, and you know, I was told I was depressed and anxious. I was told that you're not Superman, and you know, you're human.
I've been told that too.
Yeah, and it was like that. What answer is that? That was from a colleague, an internist that I well respected, still respect him, by the way. But his toolbox, that's what he knew. Like, you just hear it. You might need an anxiety pill, take this if you need it. And I'm like, no, I'm not, that's not my issue. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when you live it, it definitely resonates more. And that's when my passion clicked, just like yours, you know?
Right.
And it's interesting. You said something though, it made me think of, you know, the Deep Six and how I came up with that. Obviously, you know, because of the practice, the 6-point model. So the, you know, hormones that we always examine, the genetics, how you detoxify, your gut health and nutrients, mind-body connection, you know, stress, and then structural issues. But I made this or designed this. I didn't come, I mean, it's been there, but it's just those you can't miss. You were doing it. You just didn't know. It was like, I'm trying this, I'm doing this, I help this.
Because if you just do one of those things, you get some improvement, but you get stuck.
Yeah.
So you have to really bring them all in, because one of those things can be maybe the most impactful, but all of them are important. Yeah. I also found in the journey, as people watched the transformation in my own health, people kept asking questions and wondering why. And then I realized most people, they don't know what to do with food when you give them an idea of what healthy food is, that most people aren't used to cooking, preparing, and eating healthy foods, and their palate has changed because we're used to such highly processed foods. Right. That there was a lot of education, and IV therapy, we spend lots of time with our patients. Yeah. So there's plenty of time to educate them about the infusions they're getting, but also the lifestyle they need to live, because the infusion itself is not the only thing that's going to bring them health. Right. You have to marry it with the lifestyle.
Yeah. And you said something that's so, we don't do this intentionally, by the way, it's just the way it works out. But, you know, in our IV room at Longevity Health, you know, there's, I think one of the offices 8, one has 10 chairs or something like that. Right. So and you're sitting in this room, and you have, you know, anywhere from an hour, depending on what IV, by the way, to 3 hours of whether it's a nutrient or a chelation or amino acid or ozone or whatever. And so it wasn't designed like this, but you're in there.
Right.
And our other nurses are in there, and our infusion nurses. And so you're going to spend time with them. And a lot of times that just happens to be where there's a lot of good conversations and good education and good enlightenment and things like that, even though it's not really designed like that, you know. But I often find that it almost creates even a community feel bit, because I've had a few patients tell me some things where, you know, I was sitting there and I met blah, blah, blah. And she told me, you know, I should talk to you about this. And this is a patient telling, then, you know, she told me I should maybe think about this. And then again, because of the relationship we have and the openness, it's like, oh yeah, you know, that's something that we might want to explore or look into. And, you know, but that it's a great feel that I think we have that, and that does organically happen in an IV.
I would say that disease makes people isolated. Mm-hmm. They isolate themselves because they feel poorly, they have low energy. Maybe if they are on a special diet, they feel like they can't eat out. There's a lot. So when they come to an infusion office and there's a bunch of like-minded people and staff that are supportive, they feel like they're in a place that is actually going to help them transform. Mm-hmm. They come with questions. They also are encouraged by other people's progress and choices, and they help each other, not because the patients are giving each other medical advice, but they're supportive in the journey, and it's a wonderful kind of camaraderie of like, we're not doing this alone.
Exactly. Well, and in a lot of cases, like you're saying, it's isolating when you're ill or when you just feel bad. You know, you feel bad. A lot of us, you know, just even when you're fatigued, what do? You lay on the couch, you go alone, you get dark, you watch Netflix,
right?
You know, because you're just not.
You go into your cave.
Right.
Yes.
And so when that's repetitive and happening, that is the complete opposite of like purposeful living, which is community and like, you know, that connection feeling. Exactly. So, and that's healing.
It is, because it's almost like they're borrowing our energy to get to a better place in their head.
Yeah.
To allow them to have the energy to take the next step. That's hard, because going through a healing journey is such a challenge. Mm-hmm. It takes the energy of like an Olympic athlete to be able to get to this next place.
Right.
And sometimes I would say healing happens over a long period of time and people want it instantaneously. Yeah. So we have to remind them that it took them years for this for the dysfunction or this disease to happen. So it's not going to happen overnight, and we're encouraging the process and the repetition and the stick with it for the long haul.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that becomes lifestyle.
Right.
You know, and like you did, like you switched your lifestyle. I mean, I didn't think I needed it, but at the time when I had some stuff going on years ago in my 30s also, I started like, I haven't been to Taco Bell since, you know, but here in my head, I'm thinking like bean burritos, you know, or like, hey, these are good for me. What do you guys, and they're in, you know, people are eating beef, you know, the beef burrito or whatever. And I'm thinking, you're the fool.
Okay.
I'm eating a bean burrito, you know, yet it's full of lard.
I have the healthy choice. Yes.
Yeah. Right. And it's just, it's such misinformation and but you only know what you know. And you know, you only know at the time, do you know what I mean? And you said something that was very well said. It's our palates change. And
they do.
And like
the first time you have a healthy food, you might not like it.
I like it. But it becomes, though, people cannot believe that, like, because it's on our Instagram and all that, like, you know, as well as other things, and we share tons of things on there, but like I'll throw like broccoli and, you know, in my smoothie.
In your smoothie, right.
Oh yeah, like raw. Like I'll eat raw broccoli all the time. I've done it for years. I crave it. It's the weirdest thing, because it's like, you know, but that palate actually can be cultivated and happen.
It is those bitter things that are really good for our digestion and detoxification.
Yeah.
They are an acquired taste, but they do become something that you want after you get used to the taste.
Yeah. Which we won't get into this, but it's like the cold plunge. I tell people that when everybody I'm talking now about the cold plunge, they're always like, no, doc, no, I love you, but we ain't doing it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it becomes addictive. It does, but we won't get into that. We won't get into that. But I do want to ask you this, you know, many things, gosh, I want to ask you, but from your perspective, you know, in the practice and that, and, but, you know, if you could say, because all of our practitioners, and you're like a practitioner, you know, there where you're seeing patients and helping patients and guiding them and et cetera, what would you say is at least, you know, maybe our top 2 or 3 things that you've seen since being with us that is really powerful? Like where you, like, it's a tool that like, wow, that is really making a difference. I'm just curious. I've never asked you this, have I?
You haven't. I think one of them is the in-body. The in-body shows what's going on in body composition. The in-body is a tool that measures body composition and allows us to see in real time and in very even small incremental changes what's going on with body fat and muscle, and whether the right thing is being lost and the right thing is being gained. And it gives us accountability, because we can tell if somebody's just losing water, if they're losing muscle, because we're not just about losing weight. We want people to be leaner and also have more muscle, but their weight might be very close to what it was before, depending on the situation.
Right. Skinny fat.
It is.
Call it skinny fat.
So we have many people who think that they're like within a healthy body weight, but they get on the in-body and realize that their body composition is going to set them up for prediabetes than what they would have ever imagined. And because it's so accurate and it's such a clear measurement and easy to explain to a patient when we're looking at it, it helps them see and give them feedback to what they've been doing. So if they've been weightlifting or walking or under high stress or not drinking water, like we pick up on those things, and you can see right away what choice they either added or are leaving out because they don't have time, or losing track of kind of their priorities when it comes to hydration or nutrition. We can see the impact of that really quickly and reorient them to say, you know, this really basic thing is so important for you to get that, because everybody wants good body composition. It's everybody's goal because it's what we look like when we look in the mirror, when people see us.
100%.
It is. So
even when they're tired, they come in tired and pain,
right,
and can't sleep and losing hair or whatever. When we make those goals, there's always weight.
Right.
Even if it's 5 pounds. I mean, and not to be funny, but bra fat. I've heard that. Like,
absolutely.
I just need some bra fat. And I had to learn what that was years ago. I get it now what it is. But I mean, like, it's just, even if it's just a few pounds, the weight always matters. I love that you said that. I wouldn't have thought of that because it's just every day for us, the in-body,
right.
in-body part.
So I think some of the things that we do frequently, we're so used to. Yeah. We do. And I'm going to say the second thing is, because it's very unique to us, is live blood.
Yeah.
We use that tool.
So explain, if you don't mind.
We take a couple drops of blood from a patient just by a finger poke and put it on a slide, look at under the microscope, see characteristics of the blood cells, and we can tell what's going on with their liver, we can tell what's going on with their nutrition, we can tell what's going on with some of their gut issues, and then we also can tell their stress response, oxidative stress, and it helps guide us to what's going on, what we need to do in blood work. Yeah. It's not the only thing, and it's not the best out of all the tests we have, but people right away identify, that's me, that's wrong, I need to do something about it. For some reason, sometimes blood work, with all the information it provides, doesn't provide quite as much motivation for people to change their diet.
A picture tells 1,000 words.
Right.
And the thing
is, it's a living picture, because
it's live. Your blood's moving. It's right from there. It's right in real time, like you said. I started using this, I don't even know how, 15 years ago, or, live blood analysis. And it's basically a cytology for people, if they can visualize, where you're up on a screen, your blood on a microscope is blown up 500 power. So you can see, it's, when I tell people it's like a video game, you're going to see your stuff moving around. But I only started using it because there's a doctor out in San Diego that kind of showed me years ago about it. And I personally, when he goes, well, let me show you. We were at a conference and he's like, let me show you. And he poked my finger and I go, and I was feeling fine, everything's fine. And he started showing me stuff and I'm like, wow. And explain the physiology and the functionality of what was in there and why. I was blown away. Right. I was like, because now we're so advanced and we have all these high tech labs. We have all these things that are tools that are boom, real quick, etc. Well, that's the old school. Like cytology, looking at a microscope is old school, but that's so powerful to see it and motivating. I literally immediately started taking some different probiotics and changed my diet a little bit. I was feeling fine, but I'm like, wow, I have candida in my blood. I have leaky gut. Didn't know I had. I mean, because we all once in a while have a little bloat or a little something, but I didn't put much value into that. And it was powerful. So when I started using the office, and now we have several microscopes in both offices, and all the practitioners use, that is a tool that is so powerful, because I always say the blood never lies. Right. It's not really the only thing we use to diagnose things that we were mentioning. It's
just the beginning.
But it just gives us, it doesn't lie, and it really guides us well. And it can, in seconds, give a patient guidance, or give us a guidance to give them a result, sometimes by the next visit, with their gut or their energy, or at least what's the right test for them and what's going on. And I'm glad you brought that up, because like I said, we don't talk about this, and live blood is because we take it for granted. I
was thinking about the example, you came back from a trip, you ate a bunch of seafood, and you were able to see, after eating quite a lot of seafood over one weekend, that you had heavy metals that were visible in your blood. Yeah. Because they're that prevalent in our food supply. Yeah. The things that we don't see are hurting us. Oh, yeah. And these are the things that help us to visualize and see actually what's hurting us. And it makes us more motivated to take action in order to repair those things and stop them.
That's so on point. And it's so true, because even for me, again, the practitioner, right. the doctor as the patient, here I'm doing this, but I didn't put it all together. I just happened to do a live blood, and we can tell in there. It's not a heavy metal test, but you can tell if somebody with one drop of blood, if you just by chance catch it, some heavy metals. I was blown away. Did a test later to confirm it, etc. It was arsenic from shellfish. I had just got back a week or so ago from Florida, like you said, with my wife, and we had a great trip. But of course, what did I do? Indulge in tons of shellfish and seafood and all that. Okay. And it's well known that arsenic is in the shells and all that. And, of course, we detoxify and get rid of this. It's not like, I thought she was maybe trying to kill me. my wife.
That she was
I
putting
said, honey, you're not doing a very good job because I feel great.
And I figured it out.
Yeah, and I'm on to you. And so now I sleep with an eye, just a little open. But no, of course I, corrected it, did a little detox, et cetera. But anyway, the point is that was one drop of blood. So when you have that picture it's really giving us a really big story, even though it looks like, okay, well, you just did a drop of blood. But the reality is that's one drop of blood. If we see stuff there, you're talking your whole body crossing your blood-brain barrier, talking about getting into your joints and all that for inflammation. I mean, you can tell, better than me because you probably from a volume standpoint talk to more patients than even myself. But you fix somebody's gut, you heal their leaky gut, and you correct their diet, their inflammation goes down, their joint pain goes down. It's amazing. They're swelling. I could go on and on, but yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah. What else you got, kid?
As far as things that we do that are unique,
these are two good ones, so I'm excited. I'm like, yeah, these are good. What else?
I've never worked in an office where all of the practitioners work together to come to a solution, and you also guide us in wonderful ways by putting together opportunities to learn from you and for us to connect. And I think that's so important. We do work as a team, although each individual practitioner is so skilled and so good. Yeah. We're always learning from each other, sharing things we've learned from our patients, collaborating. And I love that team approach because I think it helps us to help maybe some more challenging cases that one practitioner might have that we can be supportive of that.
For sure, that we definitely do that because they, when you work in functional medicine or you work in a broad personalized based approach, like a functional approach, which is, again, we use traditional. I want to be really clear because I've talked about this. We don't negate traditional. So we do advanced testing, we do MRIs, CTs, deep dive blood work. We do not, if we need to treat hypertension, we need to treat hypertension. Today before I came here, I had a dentist in the office, an AFib, and sudden AFib, did an EKG, gave him some magnesium, et cetera, called the cardiologist that I have, at on hand. And long story short, but my point is when you really dig into that functionality, of course, you're going to attract and get really difficult cases. I have a few autoimmune cases, full disclosure, truth. When they told me what they had when they came in, I had to research it a bit. I'm like, never even heard of this because there's 1 in 100 cases per year diagnosed. And it's like, 100 cases per year diagnosed in the whole country. And it's so rare. And so, but autoimmune disease is autoimmune disease once you get down to the, what you have to correct. But the point is we get the rare birds, and the things that are really hard to figure out, even with our deep dive stuff. So using the other practitioners, I think, and hey, what have you done with this? How have you tested this? What's your experience? Because we're not talking thousands of patients. We're talking, we've had a handful,
in our career.
In our career, exactly. And by the way, what's crazy is I have seen, here we're, I am out 25 years of practice, but I'm sure you can attest to this too. I have seen more odd conditions than I ever did as an ER doctor, than I ever did in residency training and all that. When I say odd cases, what I mean, rarities, autoimmune rare cases, unique things, stuff that you just don't see very often, but we get,
I think they do reach out to us because there's maybe only so many medications that can be used to suppress symptoms.
For sure.
It's still a human body that needs all the support that we talked about, detoxification, nutrition, supporting the structural changes that need to happen. Some of them need surgery, some of them need physical therapy, but some of them need advanced gut testing and looking at some unusual things that are going on in their gut. All of those patients, although their case is being quite challenging, are improving and doing better than what they were doing when they were just doing medication.
For sure.
So they're doing medication and our functional approach together and doing much, much better.
Yeah. We have to do both sometimes.
Right.
And a lot of people, their goal, I think, is their mindset is, the layperson's mindset is, I don't want medicine. I don't feel good. So I'm going to go from this plan and this doctor to a holistic or a functional medicine doctor or some other type of healer. I'm stopping medicine. I'm doing this. And actually, I think that is the wrong thing and the wrong approach. Absolutely. the practitioner needs to get to know the person to do this deep dive, like the Deep Six approach, but get to know the person and transition them, like start healing them. The medicines fall off. I always I'm not going to tell you to stop your medicine. I won't need to. It'll be called for as you don't need them. You don't feel it. Your blood pressure is corrected, your cholesterol, your weight, your whatever it is, your psoriasis, your pain, they fall off because we've corrected the physiology. But a lot of lay people don't get that part.
I had somebody reach out to me on Facebook today and said, can I go to your clinic and get off my fill in the blank medication?
Right.
And I said, maybe.
Yeah.
I said, but you need to come with an open mind that we are going to guide you to change many things about your lifestyle that you have to be willing to do. We can't take you off a medication and put you on 3 supplements and you have perfect health after that. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So you have to be willing to be incredibly involved and also have lots of monitoring and see if there's a way for us eventually to wean you off a medication. But the goal is to have optimal health, sometimes with medication and these other things together, and those things work beautifully.
Yeah, because what is the goal? I mean, really, the funny thing is, what is the goal?
Optimal function.
Right, optimal function. And what do we all want? None of us want to hurt.
Right.
So none of us want pain. When I say pain, I don't mean back pain. I mean, none of us want to not feel good.
Right.
To not have energy, to be suffering a bit.
To feel like you can't think clearly, to feel like you can't wake up with a clear head.
Right. So if we can help you thrive and be preventative, and whether it's with some natural approaches or physiologic fixes, and maybe there's a med or two still you need.
Right.
There's no harm in that, because if you look personally at people, you protect side effects and all that. So,
correct.
One thing I want to pick your brain about a bit, because I know it's passionate for you and big for you, like that you, we do at the practice, all of our practitioners do, and, help with, a complementary, integrative, cancer therapies. But I know that's, like you touched upon from your mother, from your background in that, but, can you speak on that and, kind of some of your experiences? And, those are tough. They're tough.
They're
because,
tough.
Yeah.
My first exposure in functional medicine, besides my own health, was working with cancer patients. One of the things I saw from my first experiences working with cancer is that those patients came ready to change anything that needed to be changed to get them to their goal. And their goal is to be cancer-free. They also usually come alongside of them families and support systems that are usually ready to help as well. And so I found that those patients were really open and ready to change, and were very, very good when it came to functional medicine. So we could come alongside. We don't do cancer treatment in isolation. We always embrace a medical approach alongside.
We use oncologists.
Yes, we use oncologists and imaging, and then come alongside the patient with nutrition, many unique therapies that we offer at the office. I have traveled around the United States, and we've even used therapies from around the world that I've been trained in to be able to bring those options to patients in certain circumstances that are beneficial and helpful and studied in their types of cancers. So this is one of those areas where we work together with all of our shared experiences, even working with experts that we all maybe know or are connected to, and use their expertise in order to get the best possible outcome for our patients and solutions that work for them and their type of cancer, because every type of cancer is unique and it's not isolated to one part of their body.
Right. And it's interesting, because what we've learned, and that's why I really believe in our approach with, a complementary, integrative approach, not negating traditional approaches. You know what I mean? So we're always advocating work with your oncologist, listen to them, etc. But when you look at, and we learn this in just the last number of years, is stuff related to the Warburg effect, Dr. Otto Warburg, and the whole metabolic effect of cancer, is that it's a metabolic disease. You have to get down to, cancer will repeat itself, if you don't get down to, again, the root issue, but the metabolic process and fixing that. And that's, I think, where we come in, because a lot of traditional approaches are kill the cancer,
shrink the tumor,
take it out. And And that's fine.
Right.
By the way, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And every cancer is different. What's the best approach, et cetera. But if you don't look at and appreciate the metabolic approach, it's why recurrence is so high.
Right.
It's literally why studies show, people don't realize this, but stage 3 and 4 cancers, we've only in the last couple decades extended life 4 months. 4 months. So if you're not catching cancer early, and you're not taking a really holistic, when I say that, I don't mean it just is herbs. What I mean is a whole person approach, and considering all possible avenues, like you're saying, possibly from around the world even, is that the recurrence rates are high, and it's and cancer's, I mean, it's scary. It's on the rise. Head and neck cancers almost doubled related to viruses, and there's some suggestion and theory that a lot of this is, the spike protein of COVID and potentially even vaccine, immune suppression. And so we're seeing, I read just recently a couple different, studies and articles that have come out that under 50, GI cancers are up close to 30%. That's
incredible, because we don't even screen before that time.
Right.
So
I mean, like in the
change.
office, what do? We 50, you get a colonoscopy, right? And of course, I think that's why we don't see it, though, is because who are we seeing? We work on gut, we work on diet, we work on...
No matter what their age.
No matter
they can
what.
be 10,
yeah, exactly.
and we're working on their gut.
First thing you do is usually fix their gut or work on, so, by the way, take home, you fix your gut. Why? Because anywhere you go that you take a vitamin or a supplement, even if you're going to the vitamin shop or whatever, any of these places, okay, you got to absorb it.
Right.
You got to assimilate it.
Right.
So if your gut's bad, you could take the best God-given thing, it ain't going to work. You know what I mean? The gut's got to be good. So anyway, but I think that approach serves them so much better, and I think is what you were saying.
They seek us out because they find a hopeful place, and it's not that we're just giving them something that is a placebo. Yeah. We see people like reaching goals that seemed impossible because they are working alongside, like I said, expert guides that are good at helping them make choices, whether it's nutritional choices, IV therapy choices, maybe even clinical trials, putting all of those things together to optimize their potential for survival and shrinking the cancer.
Yeah.
But I also love that in the last year that we've brought in tests like Gallery and Ambry that allows us to look at people's risks way earlier, screen earlier, and find out who we need to pay closer attention to, so we can get it before it's a problem, or find it in its infancy stages when we can have a tremendous impact on cancer.
So glad you brought that up, because I'm going to throw another test in there, by the way, from True Diagnostic, the DNA telomere methylation DNA test, because thank goodness we have this technology now, but, and we could speak on probably any of these for an hour, but the Gallery test from Grail, the Ambry test, which is a cancer, genetic screening test, which we can get into a little bit, and then the True Diagnostic, because it looks at immune senescent cells, so like basically how your DNA is aging. You can tell somebody's risk. You can tell them if they have a free cell tumor of 50 solid tumors. You can tell if they have innate inherited gene mutations and SNPs to have 36 possible major cancers that potentially, and if they have those, we screen them better. Right. And obviously, and then take lifestyle things better, if you will. And then if somebody's got bad immune DNA, they could feel fine. They can have a poor, we call it mitotic clock. They can have poor stem cell division, et cetera, and their immune system isn't repairing like it should. Those are higher risk people. And so then you can take an approach that, like, I know you're, say, 50, and you've had a colonoscopy, but, per your Ambry, like maybe there's a CHEK2 gene mutation, which makes you, can be about 10 to 20% higher for colon cancer, or, and of course you focus on diet now, but you should probably have a colonoscopy every 5 years, not every 10, just because your last one was completely normal.
Right.
That kind of analogy. The other thing that's really big about the Grail test, and we'll probably have to do full podcasts on this, because there's so much to cover in that, but the Grail, which I did myself, by the way, because I want to know, because really, I don't believe this, at least in my lifetime, we're going to cure or have some major cure to cancers. I just don't. I mean,
so we're looking at your individual risk.
So you want early detection. You need, and we don't have screening for head and neck cancer, thyroid cancer, pancreas cancer, ovarian cancer. We don't have screening for those. So what can you do? Well, if we have technology now that we look at in a blood test, a cellular potential to find early stages, stage 0 and stage 1, those are typically curative. Right. That person's going to be cured. So sorry, I'm getting a little preachy, but it's really exciting because the reality is that's not a norm, and cancer diagnosis and rates are higher. And yes, these aren't free tests. Some of them are in the hundreds of dollars in that, but you're talking about if you're diagnosed with cancer, and you're a stage 3 or 4, you're going to have thousands of dollars in bills. And
it can devastate you.
It can ruin you.
Right.
Okay. And you also may not make it. Okay. And so early detection, I think, is the cure. I think the new cure, if you will, is early detection. And screening as much as possibly we can, just like a colonoscopy at 50, just like a mammogram starting now, in your 40s, that kind of, thinking, if you will. Yeah. And I want to share this because it depends how you look at this, but thank goodness, again, depending on how you look at it, but I only have one patient in the office, and he was diagnosed from another practitioner. He used to fly out to California, and he did a Grail test, and he did a Gallery Grail test type thing where they checked free cell DNA for and it was picked up a flag. It was picked up by a signal for lung cancer. And this gentleman, 45 years old, 45, 46 years old, non-smoker. It was picked up as a lung cancer. So that does not mean you have, and they can find a lung tumor. So, for the audience, he went and had a CT. They didn't really see much. They said, you know what, let's look at some other blood tests and immune tests, et cetera. And they still didn't find it, but they said, we're going to repeat your CT in another, 4 months. I think he said 4 months-ish. Next repeat, they actually saw something in his left lower lobe. And when they followed that and tracked it for another few months, they said, we're not sure because it was really tiny, but we're going to take it out. Okay. And again,
there would have been no symptoms.
I was just going to say, this is an asymptomatic, no symptoms, non-smoker, 45, 46 off the top of my head. I mean, he's still a patient, but again, this was prior to him seeing me. And he told me this just within the last year. And, so they said, hey, we're going to go in and just take this out because we just, why play around? He's like, for sure, just get it out. It was cancer. Hopefully we're
Testing helps.
Yeah. And even in the whole medical economic world, think about that. Dollars spent, even for the insurance companies, that's way better than chemo
right now,
and radiation and surgery and hospice. And I could go on and on, what I mean? But I'm glad you brought those up. Those tests are great, and we'll probably do some episodes just on those, So I do have to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
All right. We could talk, can't we talk about medicine like forever?
We can, because we love it.
I know. Sorry guys out there, because I do this, and, people are like, my kids are sleeping, I'm still talking, they're like, Dad.
They've already tuned out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much. They're like, they've been hearing it too long, but anyway, before we do my Black Book segment that I always do, I do want to touch upon this because you are, and I said this in the beginning of the podcast, you are my integrator. Okay. And that's from a kind of a systems approach we use in the business. So not the medical part, but the business. Okay. And it's important because doctors, we're dummies in the business. No knowledge, no, we get nothing. We get nothing.
It's not part of your training.
It's not part of our training. It's like, here's your degree, here's your residency, here's whatever. Go have fun, go save people, go do whatever you're going to do. By the way, how do we pay a bill? How do we pay off our debt?
Right.
Nothing. Anyway, it's actually could go off on that. But anyway, so thank goodness years ago through a patient of mine, a great friend, Gina Wickman, we started using EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and that systems approach, which resonated with me hugely because of just like the Deep Six, it's a systems approach to your health, So I think that's why it clicked with me so much. But you are our integrator. Okay, or our practice integrator. So share with me, since you've been with us, kind of what that means and kind of what your take is on that and what you think that helps.
First of all, when you think about medicine, most clinics are either small businesses, individually owned, or huge businesses, and you're part of a big corporation. but all of them want to be profitable in order to stay afloat, right, and have employees and pay off your debt. As I looked at us having a plan for the future, for us to be around and be successful and have innovative therapies and be able to pay for those things, that I saw job security for myself, but also a great place for patients to come. Being an integrator in our office it's really a way for me to look at your wonderful ideas and all the innovation that you bring and try to figure out how can I take your great idea and make it into the treatment, train the practitioners, guide the practitioners, go through the teaching to the patients, hire the right people so that we have the right people that are implementing these things. That's what it takes to roll out something so it's not sitting on a shelf. No medical treatment sitting on a shelf that nobody knows how to use is going to change anybody's life or health. Yeah. But we have some amazing tools. We're always bringing new things in. And my role as an integrator is making sure that those innovative therapies are actually being used, that they're being used safely, appropriately, that the supply chain that is required to support them is in place. Because as we know, in the last 4 years, the supply chain in medicine has been incredibly complicated.
Yeah, supply chain period.
And we have a lot of different tools that we use that we want to be able to continue to use because we know how powerful they are. I'm speaking of peptides and things like that. And so we want to be able to continue to use those things. So I'm also looking at sourcing of those things and making sure that we have really, really good companies that are bringing those tools to us. Also, I work with all of our supplement companies, and you and I work together to decide what supplements we need in order to use in the practice for the programs that we're offering to our patients, because that's always evolving too.
I need to say thank you, but I also need to apologize. Jeez, I just realized I stress you out, right? Because I'm sitting at home twiddling my thumbs, right? And, because I have nothing to do. And then I'm like, I got a great idea. And I text or call you, and then you have to go, oh my gosh.
It's usually at 6:30 in the morning because I think that's when the sparks in your brain really start when you're exercising.
This is true. This can be true, but So I got to apologize a bit because I tend to get excited about something that I've seen or read or go to a conference and get trained and I know it's going to work and I'm bringing it and hey, just got a bunch of new machines and like molecular hydrogen recently. And, here I am, I buy this $15,000 machine that I know is going to work that you're using in other countries for some amazing immune and anti-inflammatory and, neuroregenerative ability and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, all right, so now I get to put this into action.
Exactly. And it is, in the last 3 months, it's become an amazing tool for us to be able to
just this week,
use daily.
Not to side note, you're going on a tangent here, but I would tell you just this week, because this doesn't happen all the time. We're not an urgent care or an ER, but I had a patient, with a migraine, and it can take away a molecular hydrogen can completely take away her migraine. A lot of times increasing magnesium can too. So she already knew that upper magnesium when she started feeling the aura, et cetera. And sometimes we'll have patients come in, give them a shot, of magnesium, but I put her immediately on the molecular hydrogen. By the time she left, not only felt great and brain clear, but migraine aborted, gone completely. And she was like, dumbfounded. And, people aren't walking in with migraines every day. So that was kind of cool to see.
That's great.
Yeah. So what's a neuroinflammation? Any neuroinflammation that molecular hydrogen, can really impact. I think I've seen it really do wonders with people with brain fog, in general.
I've seen it too. I've seen people, even we were talking to some of these autoimmune patients, that inflammation is characteristic symptom of many autoimmune diseases, that molecular hydrogen combined with other things has been amazing in transforming their symptoms and their everyday life so they can function at a higher level, have less medication that they need to rely on in order to be comfortable and do what they need to do in life.
Yeah. It's a very, very impressive therapeutic that we just started incorporating.
It doesn't require a needle.
Yeah, it doesn't require a needle. You're just breathing a gas, which is actually oxygenated, hydrogen. Right. So it's like the hydrogen is a carrier, basically, just, so it's just diffusing deeper into the body and crossing the blood-brain barrier much more efficiently in that. So amazing stuff that can do. But yeah, thank you for being our integrator. Thank you for dealing with me. I'm sure it's fun at times, but probably a little stressful.
No, but you're inspiring.
I will cover your blood pressure pills.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I love your innovation. I think that makes our office successful. It makes us always looking and doing things that other people aren't doing yet, and also things that are proven. And I see patients excited to be able to come and try these things because they're just as excited as you are, especially your contagious enthusiasm. It rubs off on the patients. So,
well, I think there can't be anything more, that gives me more gratitude, believe it or not, and just, purpose than to literally be a imprint on a patient that I know can make, and I say this, but make a generational impact where I know if I make them or help them, they're doing it. They're doing everything. But I mean, if I'm guiding them to be healthier and more energetic and living cleaner and better, that's not just going to help them. And, by the way, just in a lifestyle thing with their kids and their husband and their business and their whatever, but their just like how I thought Taco Bell was good for me. They're going to learn from early on that, you need your broccoli,
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's so rewarding and so powerful. And I mean, I always, tell my wife, never going to retire. Cause what would I do? It's what would I do?
You have a new idea and you have to apply it to.
Yeah. So, what's the point?
Right.
So this brings us to our segment, my Black Book segment. Now, that's my, memoir of a lot of ideas and, medical things, medical studies, but also things that, just come to me, I guess when I'm working out, like you said, at 6 a.m. And that's for years. So sometimes you might pull something out of there that I go, I don't really know the context of why I wrote that. I just really liked it at the time and it came to me. But hit me.
How many years of writing is?
Well, that's my second book. So it's probably been at least 3 or 4 years.
Reprogramming. Repetition leads to habits that helps reprogram subconscious behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that totally is so true. But why I wrote that is because that's me. I am the functional ADD. And that's the visionary, that's the creative, that's everything. Right. But I'm like to think I'm functional. I mean, depends who you ask. But but the repetition, the habitual stuff, I mean, it's like traction. You just, you get better and better and better traction. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm actually really doing this. You know what I memean? And this can go down to anything. I mean, speaking of, and I, make jokes about the cold plunge, and that, right. but I mean, I didn't know when I started, I don't know if I can do this, whatever. So I just started in my bathtub, but I literally started doing the cold plunge in my bathtub, probably around 50 degrees, just, put on all the cold water. And I committed to myself, I'm going to do this 3 days, 3 mornings a week. And if I do this for roughly a year, then I'll invest in a cold plunge, which I did, you know what I mean? But, as I, it's torture. I mean, it's totally, I had to have my, I went to my therapist the next week. I'm like, but the reality is that I was like, after a handful of them, I was like, I felt results, and it was the habitualness of it. And then it becomes like that rewarding, like proud of yourself that you're like doing this. And this is just an example, like the cold plunge, meaning, so when I, and for me, that habit and that ritual to me always leads to a good result. Now that also can be a negative loop and lead to a bad result if it's something like a bad habit.
No, I agree, but I'm thinking, do people really think that they can change? If they come to us and we tell them that they need to be gluten-free for the next 12 months, do they think that's possible? Little tiny successes, saying doing it for a month and being successful, feeling the difference.
100%.
All of those kinds of things.
They can. I mean,
but I don't think they can until we show them they can.
100%. And I always say this. Now, again, there's the celiac patient, just speaking of this, which obviously have a big reactivity. They can't have any gluten. I mean, they're violently sometimes ill, etc. Have a lot of symptoms for weeks. So, like, we're not talking about celiac. That's a real condition. We have celiac patients, etc. But when want somebody to be gluten-free to going on this is that I'll go, you know, because they're deer in the headlights when I start talking about and I look at their live blood and I say, hey, to rest the gut, the epithelium, and to really help your gut lining, we need to be gluten-free, okay? Do your best. Think of the big things. Cut out the big things. Make that a habit first. I'm not going to have bread. I'm not going to have, you know, white pasta. I'm going to go with like a rice-based pasta or something like that, you know? Little wins, you know, little wins. Not, you have to read the little box label, okay?
Right.
They will typically, if you reduce about 80, 90%, they will typically, I mean, I think you've experienced this too, where they will feel it, okay? Right. They will notice a difference. And then that's like, wow, I'm doing it. You know, I'm doing it. And then they tend to get better and better
right.
at it. Like, okay. And then they get really defiant about it. I mean, if you're in a restaurant, like my daughter right now, my 24-year-old daughter is like, I love this, by the way. I'm very proud of her. She carries around like a business card with what she can't have, but she literally gets very ill from it. She gets skin issues and she's very, very, very sensitive to it. So, but I mean, she gets like, I'm like scared to order. Because, I mean, if this guy brings something messing up.
She's going to let him have it?
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, but they like it, though. She pulls out her business card, you know, with her, like, allergy stuff on it and, you know, shows them and hands them, et cetera, you know. And, but that's how, because she has felt it for years now. It's been years, it's not new. And it being that clean, if you will, or off that, and she, by the way, it wasn't overnight. But it's that traction you can get right. with that progress. And then, oh, wow, I'm doing it and all that. And by the way, I have to say this because this is hand to God truth. We have a handful of big Italian restaurant owners, the owners
right.
that are patients. Very popular Italian
Telling
restaurants.
them that they can't have their pasta.
They're Italian,
right.
okay? And I say, at least in this country, you cannot have, you know, gluten. They look at me and I say, listen, I know I'm bad for business. Okay. But I think your business is going to survive. Okay. All right. But they switch, they flip. And I'm not sure about this, but I bet you they start offering gluten-free pasta
right. in their
restaurants.
I love that.
You're flipping pages. Should we do one more? You know?
Okay. Alive in each person's heart is a desire to participate in something bigger than themselves. By an entrepreneur, humanitarian, philanthropist named Bahart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Alive in each person's heart is the desire to participate in something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you're that fortunate and lucky enough, you know, and if we live that way, right. you are going to be fulfilled and happy. You know what I mean? You're going to always be happy.
Missional purpose.
It's not the money.
Right.
It's not the, you know, it's not the, you know, I even believe this. It's not the health. Health is super important. It's not the, you know, what you've done and where you've gone and all that. It's that if you're living beyond yourself and you're living greater than yourself and for a higher purpose and all that, how rewarding. I mean, there's nothing that feels better than that.
I just want to say that culture is what you have brought into our office and you encourage. So we hire people that want to have that kind of a mindset, that they want to participate in what we're doing and what we're offering, in sharing and helping people to have a healthier, more meaningful life. And it does feel like a passionate, purposeful place to work because of how you have designed our model and the people that you have there. And I love that because I think it makes us way more fulfilled in our everyday life coming to work.
Yeah, wow, geez. Well, thank you. I got a little goosebumpy there. Thank you so much. No,
it is.
It just,
like
I think,
what you do.
No, it's you know, hey, I think I started that and I started it with just fun, meaning
right.
like came from my heart and fun and always doing the right thing.
Right.
And, obviously being around and having scars and growing from those, you know, scars and bumps and all that stuff. It's just like, wow, what's life about, you know, doing the right thing and helping people and living for a bigger purpose and all that. And, I haven't read that in a while, so that's kind of cool.
I have heard you say many times at work, always do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that shows in our work and our work ethic and how we show up and help patients.
Yeah. Wow. Geez. I'm going to end on that note, man.
All right.
Amen. No, but thank you, Naomi. You're the best. You're the best. Honestly, we're going to have to cut out a segment that is just about one of these topics because there's so many and so good. I am so grateful for you at the practice, by the way. And I say that for the patients because they love you all the time. And I mean, geez, I think I'm going to go to Hawaii for a month and just,
leave me to run it.
Yeah, sure. And I'll, by the way, I'll text you from the beach with some great ideas.
Great ideas. Okay.
And you can filter those.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, no, thank you so much. You're always a blast to work with and inspiring to work with and very easy to work with. So thank you. And you're helping me and helping us bring, the best in a functional, personalized medical approach, like we talk about here in the Deep Six. So thank you so much.
It's been a joy to be part of this, and I love being part of this mission.
Super awesome. Well, thank you, Naomi. And this is Dr. Lewerenz from the Deep Six. Join us again, where we're really impacting and making an imprint on your health and your journey in life. This is Dr. Lewerenz.